I don't care for the idea of machines being used to enhance the lives of a selected few. They can serve the well-being of all people. And this is what the Venus Project's main concern is, to elevate all human beings to their highest intellectual and physical potential.
Teleimmersion is much harder to do than virtual reality, but the experience of it is strangely much more ordinary. It really just feels like being with another person. And that's what we're going for, some naturalness, something that we've never had in telecommunication before.
What does the future hold for society? In what kind of world do we wish to live? And if we could redesign the way we live, what would it be like?
People will not change things today. They will not until the bottom falls out. No society, to my knowledge, historically, had ever looked ahead and planned. This is what we've got to do for the future. They've never done that. The Venus Project calls for the redesign of a culture. We feel that there's enough resources in the world and enough new technology to wipe out the slums, do away with most problems that exist today. And the Venus Project calls for a resource-based economy. Rather than being based upon money, it's based upon resources. In other words, if a group of people were stranded on an island with millions of dollars in gold and gems, if the island had nothing to support life, water, fish, fruit, arable land, you have nothing. So the real value of any nation is its resources.
A resource-based economy and the linking of computers with automated machines called cybernation could usher in the end of the age of scarcity. Hunger, war, crime, poverty, drugs, planned obsolescence, and the unnecessary suffering in the world today.
Well, the Venus Project it's an entirely different social design. It's looking at things kind of out of the box of the way we look at things today. It talks about using our science and technology to benefit all people. Today, most people aren't prepared intellectually or emotionally as to what's going to happen in the culture in the future and what's even happening today, how fast technology is replacing people.
Central Cybernation will serve as the brain and nervous system of the city. Its electrical tentacles will extend into all areas of the social complex. It could coordinate all of the functions of the entire city, our nation, and eventually the world. This cybernated system could eventually bring an end to the age of politics.
Most people today have a fear of automation or artificial intelligence. They feel that it'll make people more like machines than human beings. Actually, this is not the case, because everybody has a refrigerator, hi-fi set, and machines were never a threat to people. Machines not having emotions, they have no ambition. They don't want to run things. They don't want to control people. It's the abuse and misuse of machines that we have to concern ourselves with. Well, we'll walk over to the video dome where we build the models. It's jammed because I don't have any room. These are where we build the models, and oh my, it's freezing. Let me get a little light in here. This represents remote living in the future. When you use science and technology, you can phase out most jobs. People will go back to school, get into art, music, writing. There'll be no work. In fact, I don't know whether you knew this, but the Polynesians had no word for work. Did you know that? They played, they went fishing, there was bananas growing all around. So we are moving toward a society that does not require the participation of people, except in the arts and doing creative work. And their motivation is a world without poverty, no slums, no hunger, no lawyers, no businessmen, no banks, no money. You don't need it. What you need is resources. Automation would be used in the future in the Venus Project for all boring, repetitive tasks, window washing, servicing, maintaining machines. We have a rail above the window and a rail below. The rotary brush moves along, slides down, takes the next floor. You don't need a guy hanging out there with straps, cleaning windows. It is very easy to replace most jobs. Here you have the types of machines that will dominate the future. These are grabbers. All the machines are built and serviced by machines. This machine that you see here picks up the building, the apartment. This travels up and down. This travels up and back and inserts the apartment right into the structure. And I don't care for the idea of machines being used to enhance the lives of a selected few. They can serve the well-being of all people. And this is what the Venus Project's main concern is. Not machinery, not cybernation, not automation, but to elevate all human beings to their highest intellectual and physical potential and sense of spiritual well-being.
I think what interested me initially about the Venus Project was the technical aspects of it. And when I first came out, we viewed the buildings, we saw the different designs of the individual elements of the buildings, the cities that Jacque had designed, also the transportation systems, the automobiles, the airplanes, the undersea cities, undersea craft, etc. And I think initially I was fascinated by the breadth of Jacque Fresco's creativity.
These are cities in the sea. We made these boats out of solid lucite, plastic. And this would be, students would come here and live there for several months. There'd be trees and plants all along here. They'd ride bicycles in here, and do marine science studies. Take care of the ocean, make sure we remove the radioactive stuff we've dumped into the sea. And this represents ocean mining.
I like the holistic approach of the Venus Project because it looks at how things relate to other things. So much today, we see a problem and we solve that problem and we create another problem. Everything is like a lattice, a pattern in a crystal growing, and everything relates to everything else. So many of our failures are based on thinking things are independent. And what Jacque does is look at the future as a whole and all of the elements of it.
It works with cleaning the environment, giving people a better lifestyle, making things available to people, so you really change people's, we don't change people's behavior, but people's behavior would change if the environment was different.
When I see the empty, unfulfilled lives that people lead just to try to make a living, and then I look at how it could be through the eyes of the Venus Project, I really see that there's no other direction to go.
What stage of development is the Venus Project at today? Well, we've finished the blueprints for the first experimental city. We've decided on methods for providing energy for people all over the world, not only solar, geothermal, that is, natural heat of the earth. There's enough geothermal energy to propel our society today for 1,000 years, just geothermal alone. There's no shortage of anything today except brains. Now, on that land there, we intend to build a big dome called a Center for Dialogue, in which people can discuss any ideas. And we would invite people from all over the world to live in our cities as guests. And when they live in this section of the new city, and they like it, if they like it, would you be willing to join in this common heritage project?
At some point, there has to be new thinking, and that's where Dr. Fresco and the Venus Project and his vision for the future comes in. If I had any criticism of it, it would be that it might be, so far, a little bit on the idealistic side. But long term, I don't think it is. the changes that have come about in humanity, thinking just within my generation, is remarkable. There was a time in this country and elsewhere across the world where communism was the thing of the future. And people had great hopes and expectations of the Soviet Union, and they have fallen. And we can be next. And we will be next somewhere along the way unless there are radical changes in the thinking.
This is the government. This is the most important end of it. Government, okay? We have several satellites around the world that project a hologram of the Earth, 160 feet in diameter. You walk over to this computer and talk, and you say, how many planes are there in the air? A laser beam will show you every plane in the air, where they're located. It'll show you fish, hurricanes, ocean migration of animals, plant diseases, all over the world. No opinions, real information about the Earth. These machines represent that. This machine is the Department of Agriculture with its tentacles out to the agricultural belt. This machine is automatic inventory. When you go to a supermarket and you take things, it automatically keeps a record and account of that and orders material. You don't need a guy with a notebook saying we need 50 boxes of oatmeal. These are computers that represent that. This is the government. No matter how outlandish an idea sounds, don't sit back and say, nah, it'll never work. Just say, how do you propose to solve this area? What about that area? When you build a dam here, doesn't that stop the beavers from building dams, change the water table? How do you compensate for that? Not attack. Attack is not the sharing of ideas. People have to learn how to speak. They have to learn how to inquire into things, not merely say it'll never work.
I'm very optimistic about the future. The future is going to be far different, I think, from what we think it will be. Just as the last 100 years have turned out to be far different from what they might have thought in 1900.
Now that I have been exposed to this line of thinking, I look upon it now as a sign of hope.
Am I optimistic? I really don't know whether it'll come about. I can't say what will happen, but I do know that if we disregard these concepts, the system will die and we'll hurt ourselves. If you want a better world, you have to get up and make it better. And if you want a better relationship with other human beings, you have to earn it and develop it, not hope for it. You have to irrigate to make plants grow. You have to work at it. And this is what the Venus Project is about.